During the past month, the way we live and work has changed dramatically. Closed borders, quarantines, and countries under extreme pressure. One might ask oneself, do I dare to do business? One could also ask, do I dare not to? Welcome to Bisnode Studio. The full magnitude of the implications of the economy from Corona is yet to be found out. GDP will drop, and we already see high unemployment rates. So how should companies act in a situation out of the ordinary? What is important to take into consideration, and how do you evaluate your business partner's credits during a full-blown crisis? Whom do you trust? These are questions that we will try to answer in today's episode of Bisnode Studio, and this with the excellent help of Peter Nyberg, Group Director of Risk and Credit, and Rikard Candell, Group Director of Analytics at Bisnode. A warm welcome.
Thank you.
So, Rikard, if we start with you, it's not a pretty picture we see out there. So from a business perspective, how do you describe the crisis we're in?
The most obvious thing is that we're coming from a long period of low risk levels in the economy, and we're quickly moving into a high risk environment. So many companies out there need to remind themselves of how to work in this type of environment. And we receive a lot of questions, companies and customers asking for guidance and expertise. We also see companies reaching out to each other and helping each other during this crisis. And ultimately, it's a very uncertain situation. We simply don't know what the outcome will be and for how long this period will last. From an individual standpoint, of course, we're also changing the way we work. Getting used to working from home and using digital services to connect with each other.
But can we see businesses actually starting to adjust to this new situation, Peter?
We do indeed, and it is a mixed picture. We have seen over the last few weeks a reduction in credit assessments of between 5 and 20%. So that's the equivalent of going back to the business activity we had in 2017. So that is a fair drop. At the same time, it's of course important to remember that the vast amount of business does go on. We still have levels of 2017.
It's easy to believe that everything just halted.
It is easy to believe, but that is not what we're seeing. And in fact, we do see some positive news also. We saw an increase last week of about 5%, and it's difficult to tell, of course, but we're hypothesizing that part of the drop was not so much about the risky business, but it was about people trying to shift the workplaces from offices and face-to-face to sitting at home, working with family around them. And I guess we can all say that's not always easy.
It's been a bit of a challenge as well, that's for sure. So Rikard, can you tell us a bit about the scorecards that you use to evaluate customers' credibility? First of all, I want to go into how liable they are now, but first of all, tell us what they are. What is a scorecard?
So there are different types of scorecards, but basically a failure score is a predictive model, and we're trying to pinpoint the likelihood of a company going into bankruptcy in the coming 12 months. The way it works, predictive models in general, we're using historical observations, in this instance up to 7 years of history, and we're trying to take into account both recessions and booms in the economy to predict what will happen tomorrow. So how it works, you train the algorithm based on many different types of data, company financials, company demographics, macro and industry-specific data, as well as more fast-moving data, payment behavior, credit activity, payment remarks. Once the model is built and validated, it's basically updated whenever you notice a new data point. So the model is continuously fed with new data and makes an updated prediction on what will happen.
And what happens to these models now with COVID-19? Do you change them?
First of all, the very short answer is no. We don't change our approach. We continue to build data-driven models, and it's based on two principles. We don't revert to gut-based decisions now. It's more important than ever to do data-driven approaches. Secondly, we have a responsibility in the market and in the overall economy. We want to enable trade, and that's why we exist. We don't want to further down, kind of drive the decline by adding fuel to the fire, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
You can still rely on the scorecards. That's the overall notion.
But is it likely that the scorecards actually underestimate risk?
So the relative risk levels are increasing, and as we as all of us see, it varies also a bit on industry by industry. Some are hit harder and impacted already. Mm-hmm. So it depends on country by country and how you have developed your scorecard, how much historical data you've included. It might be that we are underestimating the overall risk levels, but the score itself and the relative ranking of companies still holds up. Mm-hmm. So if you flip it around, what we recommend our customers to do is actually reviewing their credit policy and cutoff limits, if that's what they're using as part of their credit process.
Okay. So, Peter, is it actually possible even to make good business decisions in a high-risk environment as this?
Well, it's certainly possible to do credit risk management well or not so well. Uh-huh. And in a low-risk environment, you don't see much of that impact, because the impact is that you turn away clients that you didn't need to turn away. You say no, and you don't see them anymore, so hence you don't notice that. In this high-risk environment, the losses will increase. And we know from experience that the difference between an average company and a really good company is that the average company tends to act about 3 months before the actual loss has happened, whereas a really good company can act 6 or 9 or even 12 months ahead. Mm-hmm. Companies that are struggling, they tend to act a month or less. And of course, in this volatile environment, these timeframes will shrink, but I do believe it still will be true that the well-prepared company doing proper credit management will have about 12 times as much time to do mitigating actions and actually work with their clients to find a way to keep trading. Mm-hmm. So yes, the impact of doing good credit risk management has just increased.
So what do I need to consider then to make my credit decisions, to make them as good as possible?
So for the individual decision right now, it's important to look at the cash flow, to look at the liquidity situation, also to look at the payment behavior. You should, of course, also look at credit remarks and such official things, where you need to be aware that those typically are quite lagging measures. And the fact that also cash flow, etc., might be a month behind, that doesn't matter so much. It is typically true that it's the weakest companies that will be hit the hardest. Mm-hmm. What you also need to do is you need to take a look at your whole portfolio, because doing these assessments takes time. And if you do need to do it on every individual customer, you don't have that time. So you need to look at your whole portfolio and segment that, split it into pieces. If you're highly exposed towards the hospitality industry, towards travel, that is one part of what you need to do. Mm-hmm. You will also find that you have some really good, strong customers. And if we take Sweden as an example, 1991, worst crisis in recent memory, at that point, 1 in 15 companies roughly went bust per year. Mm-hmm. But among the highest ranked customer or highest rated customers, it was less than 1%. So it's generally true that you have, and everyone will have, a base of really strong customers that you want to do more business with. Mm-hmm. And then you spend your time on the in-betweens. That's where you put all your manual effort and you bring in all the insight that you have in the company to do a really good assessment.
Oh. Well, thank you for that. Great help. But I'm also thinking there's a lot of actions taken by governments now, like support packages and such coming in. So how do you actually view those? Do you follow those?
Yeah, we have to, and we monitor them closely country by country, because the situation varies in different markets as well. And we do it out of 2 reasons. So first of all, we need to do it in order to interpret the actual data and make sense of it.
Of course.
So a very concrete example, just a few days ago, Germany changed the obligation to report insolvency until September this year. So how does that hit, and how do we interpret the reports regarding bankruptcies in Germany until that date? Mm. The second part is we want to understand, similar to our customers, how this situation impacts different industries. So of course we need to monitor it closely, but there is not a data point in the scorecard that says plug in
Not
policies.
an algorithm for policy decisions.
No, but it's also a clear recommendation to our customers. Peter mentioned that it's important to segment your base and understand where your high risk exposure is, where the business value is. So if you have high risk exposure, for example, in hotels and restaurants or transportation industry, it's important to follow what the support packages and policies are related to those specific industries.
So how would you say that this crisis, Peter, is different from, you mentioned 91, we also had a huge economic crisis in 2008. How does this differ?
Well, quite obviously the difference is in 2008 we did not have a pandemic. But beyond that, and given that pandemic, it is really too early to say. But we can still learn from the global financial crisis of 2008. And we should look at the different scenarios for how that played out, which was very different for different markets, where, for instance, the US took essentially a 3-year step backwards in terms of GDP. But after having done that, they actually continued with the same growth rate annually. Sweden, Canada did even better. We had essentially a road bump. It was a fairly significant bump, but we actually bounced back. But what we don't want to have in this crisis is the Greek scenario, where they took an immense hit, lost more than a decade of GDP, and never recovered on the growth rates either. And that is obviously the scenario we're working very hard together to avoid.
But you also had a great idea, I thought, when we spoke earlier, that you should use the talents from like the 90s crisis, because you meet them in your line of business, obviously.
Yes, I've been privileged enough to meet a lot of credit risk managers, and I've noted there is a huge difference in terms of perspective if you meet someone who was around when there last was a real major macro crisis, vis-a-vis if you don't yet have enough grey hairs to actually be part of that. And I have noted already clients seeking out former credit leaders or credit managers and actually drawing on their insight. And of course, many of these people, they are now essentially locked at home and they can't meet anyone. So they're super happy to help and actually do a contribution. And they're quite clear-sighted, have a good perspective on what scenarios could exist, and can be a tremendous help in the scenario. And it's not easy to find people who are know credit management well. So use that.
Yeah, excellent advice. So let's do some more advice. Could you hit me with your 5 best tips on what I should do right now to secure my business?
Yes. So first, monitor your full portfolio. Not just a few of your customers and business models, the full portfolio. Use that to know your current risk and know how that compares to what level you can actually accept, so you don't go beyond that level. Then be data-driven, and as we talked about, segment your portfolio and then do different approaches for different segments. Strong clients, grow more with those. Weak clients, mitigate, find ways to work around it, change terms and conditions. There are many things you can do. Put your individual efforts in the in-between clients. Even accept that your automation, if you use credit automation, you need to take more manual decisions, because otherwise you risk losing out on clients because average risk levels are increasing. Last, you need to spread an understanding in the company for what good credit risk management is about, because you will need to act swiftly and firmly. And this is not a competence that most organizations have spread out today. They haven't needed to.
Not for 10 years, at least.
No, the only exception is in fraud. And I guess that would be my last addition, that you need to watch out for fraud. Unfortunately, people will use the situation to test the systems.
Of course. So would you add something to that list?
I mean, it's a very good list. The only thing I would add is, of course, reach out, ask for help, ask for guidance. Peter gave a very good example of asking for, support from people who were part of prior economic crisis. But reach out and ask for help from expert networks.
Ask you guys, obviously.
Ask us.
It might be too soon, but could we see any benefits actually coming out of the works being done now? What would you say, Peter?
Yes. I agree. It is a bit early, or it feels a bit early, but change does come in 2 ways. And at some point, this crisis will blow over and things will start to improve. And if you are good at managing credit risk, you will realize that earlier than others. That means you will open up for new customer relationships and actually build those, and you will be first out of the gate, so to speak. And I think that means actually you get back what you invest twice, both now to manage the downside and in the future by being fast on the upside.
Thank you, Peter and Rikard, for sharing your insights here today. And if you in the audience have any questions, I'm sure that these guys are willing to answer as many of them as possible. And also keep a lookout for more episodes of Bisnode Studio here at the website. So let's keep going together. And thanks for watching. Stay safe.